Hey everyone, welcome to MezFi Meets. It's Jerome Dadon, the CEO of MezFi, here with another episode of MezFi Meets, where we bring you conversations from the cutting edge of blockchain, AI, financial services, and property with interesting people doing amazing things. On today's episode, we interview Alyse Sue, who is the co-founder of Transhuman Coin, as well as the co-founder of Transhumanism Australia. She is the ex-head of Metaverse at KPMG and a really, really interesting person. On today's episode, we discuss a number of different issues from the singularity. We discuss Ray Kurzweil's views on the singularity, as well as a range of different issues that are close to Alyse's heart. Transhuman Coin, they support a number of different initiatives, and we talk about those initiatives. As well as the Killer Whales show, which Alyse was on recently. She was over in LA to shoot that, and that was she had an exciting time. We discussed that as well. So really excited. It was a really great interview. So if you enjoy our content, please consider liking and subscribing to our channel. For those who don't know, MezFi is an investment manager in Australia. To find out more about us and our products, go to www.mezfi.com. Guys, let's jump into today's episode. Hi, everyone. It's MezFi Meets. Jerome Dadon, the CEO of MezFi, here today with Alyse Sue, the former director of Metaverse at KPMG, as well as a co-founder of Transhumanism Australia and Transhuman Coin. Alyse, how are you today?
I'm great. Thanks so much for having me on the show.
It's absolutely a pleasure. We've known each other for about a year now. I think we met at Steve Vallis's event in Sydney last year in July. I was just saying before we started recording that I remember yourself and your husband Peter when we were sitting in a roundtable related to AI, and both you and Peter had really strong views on AI and its benefits and potential benefits. For humanity, for Australia, for everybody who whose AI is going to touch, which is everyone really. So I'm really excited today to have a bit of a chat about everything that you do. Why don't we start with Transhumanism Australia and Transhuman Coin? Maybe, I think it's 3 years since Transhuman Coin, 10 years since Transhumanism Australia. How did you guys, get into that? How were they founded? And how did you get into the blockchain space in general?
About 10 years ago, I started to want to invest in the future. And I thought about, well, how do you invest in the future? Obviously, in technologies of the future. And what were they? And around that time, I did some research and I came across technologies like brain-computer interfaces and artificial general intelligence. And those were kind of on the fringes. They weren't really talked about by the mainstream. So it was really difficult to find people who worked in this area, but not only just worked in this area, who just had a general interest in this area and could do a deep dive into the technologies and tell me about the companies that were worthy of investing in. And I'm talking about both public markets and private markets. So that's when I was talking to my husband and we decided to start a meetup group. So we literally just put a group up on meetup.com and we called it Transhumanism Sydney, I think, at the time, because being Sydney based, we just wanted to meet people in real life to start with. And so one of our first meetups was at this pub called the Metro. It was above the Macca's, if you remember it. And I don't think it exists anymore, but they were one of the few, or maybe one of the only ones in Sydney that accepted Bitcoin. So that's why we chose that space. And they really loved us. They were really accommodating. And so it really started as a meetup group of about 10 people or so. And the people who came to the meetup, it was like they were already part of these other groups that were really interested in technologies. So you had hackers, you had people in the science world, people who ran some of the early science podcasts. Like even 10 years ago, podcasts weren't really, I guess, as popular as they are today. Now everyone is doing a pod. And it's actually a preferred medium of the way that people want to receive their information these days.
Absolutely, yeah.
So then from there, I guess our interest initially was in investing in the future and the the technologies of the future. But from there, we really believed in the philosophy, and we realized that it is a movement that is worthy of growing, and in terms of supporting with both our resources and our time. So that's when we came across our co-founder of Transhuman Coin. So we have a separate entity called Transhumanism Australia. Really, it's just a community of people. We have about a community of 20,000 people globally, or even more. So the way we grew it really just started off as a tiny meetup group based in Sydney. Then we started partnering with all these complementary organizations around the world, so that transhumanism is already a really large movement around the world. So we didn't come up with the term. I think it originated in the 1970s from this biologist. And then it's been a movement that has kind of been on the fringes, but it's also entering the mainstream consciousness. So based off that community that we grew about 10 years ago, we then launched Transhuman Coin with our co-founder, myself and my husband, Peter Zing, launched it with our co-founder, Charles Awuzie, who's based in South Africa. So he has got a very large following, and he is responsible for pushing forward a lot of the science and technology education in that region, as well as interest in crypto. So there's already a huge crypto adoption in that region. And so it really made sense for us to work together and partner. And for 3 years now, we have built a huge community. A lot of our community for Transhuman Coin is based in Australia, as well as South Africa. We've got Nigeria and many other parts of the world. So through the coin, we've managed to raise quite a bit of funding, and we've been able to use that funding to support a lot of projects that we've always talked about, including the projects that we originally started Transhumanism Australia for, to support and to invest in. So we've worked with the University of Technology, Sydney, in supporting some of their brain-computer interface projects. So we showcased with them at South by Southwest Sydney last year. So we had the Dream Machine, where you could wear a device on your head and it records the brain activity. And then once you get the data from, all the, when you, let's just say you wear it while you're sleeping, then it can take that data and then it can translate that and visualize your dreams. So you can watch it back and you could actually remember or actually understand what you dreamt about.
No way. But actually with pictures and everything. Yes.
So we use or UTS, the research group uses generative AI so that they can take that data and then use that to generate visuals and imagery. So it's actually quite challenging in terms of being able to visualize a whole scene or scenario.
I can only imagine
it works quite well with.
Yeah, wow. I can only imagine how much data, how much processing power that would take. How accurate is it? Obviously you can't. What's the word? You can't go, okay, so this is exactly what I dreamed about, and this is, but is it accurate? Do they actually have data on that?
At the moment, it still isn't as accurate as it should be. So for individual items, so let's say you're thinking of these objects or items, which a lot of people think about, say an apple, a horse, then it can be quite accurate. But if we're talking about a scene where it's very complex, let's just say you are dreaming about a sunny day, you're down at the beach, you see some surfers who are just waiting on their boards to catch the next wave, and then you see these little kids playing the sand, building a sand castle. Now that becomes a lot more complex and a lot harder to decipher and also visualize. So it varies in terms of accuracy depending on if you're talking about a complex scenario or individual item. And when it comes to the items, how common is it that people think about it or dream about it?
No, I understand. Yeah, no, that's really interesting. I mean, it's a long journey for both you and Peter. I wasn't aware that it started out with a meetup group. Funnily enough, the the company that I interviewed a couple of weeks ago, Sonar Platform, they also started as a meetup group, not an IRL, but a Telegram group. So it seems like in our space, starting as a group of people who are interested in a particular topic or interest is a really normal thing, and technology is at the heart of all of it, isn't it? Because without that meetup app, you wouldn't have been able to get everybody together. Without Telegram, they wouldn't be able to do what they're doing. Without Riverside, we wouldn't be able to have this podcast today the way that we are. I mean, technology, some people find it a bit scary, but it's at the heart of a lot of really positive change in our world today. And I think you'd probably agree with that, considering, obviously with transhumanism, Transhuman Coin, you'd have a lot of positive things to say about technology, I imagine.
Exactly. And in terms of how it all ties into blockchain as well is, so in the very early days, we used to host a lot of meetups, and we used to, like I mentioned, partner with other groups which had some, I guess, common interests or shared principles with the transhuman community. And one of those was ETHSID. So some of the very early people who started that community introduce the transhuman community to Ethereum and Bitcoin.
Cool.
And so when we're talking about transhumanists, we really believe in open source, self-sovereignty, and these are exactly the same principles that the crypto community believes in. So a lot of us are libertarians in the transhuman community. Not all of us are. And you could say the same for the Bitcoiners as well. So that was actually our original introduction to that part of that community. And so when we're talking about just technology in general and how important it is, and how we should be thinking about what are the positives that technology can offer and how it can benefit us. So I want to talk about this movement that has kind of popped up. It's gaining momentum, especially in Silicon Valley. So effective accelerationism, or EAC for short.
Okay.
I think a lot of people probably follow that on X. And so I did actually get to meet Beth when I was in San Francisco just a few weeks ago. So what EAC is really about is it's a movement that's rooted in thermodynamism. Thermodynamics. And so it's the study of science, the science of heat, energy, and motion. So what we are talking about is how we can use capitalism and technology to accelerate the progress of technology, especially the acceleration of intelligence. And we can actually see that already happening in terms of what the hyperscalers are already doing. So you've got all the big tech companies which are using a lot of energy to progress the development of AI. Everyone 100%. Is just racing towards trying to create artificial general intelligence. And so there's a lot of pushback at the same time. And I think why this movement gained popularity is because it coincided with a time where there was a lot of negativity towards the development of AI. People were quite concerned after people saw what it was capable of after the release, a few months after the release of ChatGPT. So then with EAC, so this is, it has a lot of similarities with what transhumanism is about as well. So there's 3 pillars to transhumanism, and it's about achieving 3 things. So achieving super intelligence, super longevity, and super well-being. And this is very in line with the EAC movement. So they are different movements, but they technically sort of have the same goals, and it's about working towards the singularity. So, for example, what the singularity is people have different definitions, but for me, it's about when the point in time in which machine capability exceeds human capability. Okay. And some people think it's the time when then technology is no longer under the control of humanity, or intelligence, or machine intelligence is no longer under our control.
Is that your definition, or that you don't agree with that?
I think it's accurate. I believe it's accurate. So if we do have intelligence which exceeds ours, then it may mean that it's sentient. So it has a consciousness. Yep. So can we truly control, is it even ethical to control some other being which has sentience?
Well, I mean, I guess it depends on what you think the motivations of those other beings with sentience are. Whether you've accurately and correctly programmed what you're creating to be benevolent rather than destructive. I guess there's a lot of factors involved that that speak to the ethics of how to either control or sort of we won't say control. Maybe we use the word I don't know. Maybe coexist with sentient, intelligent, technological life, so to speak, I guess. It's very interesting. I mean, I'm sure, like a lot of people, you wouldn't be without an understanding of some of the concerns that are related to this, even though there's hugely massive positive benefits that are clear about this. There are obviously some legitimate concerns there too. Do you feel any of those legitimate concerns, or do you think that they're overblown?
If any entity, individual, organization, company is thinking about creating artificial general intelligence, so for me, the term AGI has always been used as opposed to ASI. So now, because people think that we are closer than ever, maybe even 2 years away from creating AGI, now wow. People have started to use the term ASI, which means artificial superintelligence. Okay. I always thought the S stood for sentient, but it's superintelligence, which makes sense.
Okay, that does make sense.
So I think now people using AGI to mean that we've now got AI which can perform on many benchmarks or tests better than a human, possibly. Yep. So who's very good at doing a large range of tasks, rather than, you just like create one model and it can perform really well overall, rather than say like narrow AI, which they used to use that term. Yeah,
which was sort of like, specific data sets, learn on this and do this specific thing, whereas, the LLMs, obviously, they can, do a task for you, they can answer, your questions, they can, et cetera, et cetera. So but that's not what we're saying that is artificial general intelligence. That's even beyond that. Again, is that what you're saying?
Yes. Yeah. So now people are using another term to say, well, artificial superintelligence, that is when it's possibly the point at which we have the singularity. And so Ray Kurzweil, he did say 2045 many years ago. From what he's seen now, he thinks it's going to happen in 2030. His predictions have been 50% accurate on other types of technologies and occurrences, so that's only 6 years away. That's not a lot of time for humanity to prepare.
Ray Kurzweil. Now, I feel like... So Ray Kurzweil is a very famous... he's in AI and robotics, is that right? I feel like...
He's the head of... he heads up... I'm not sure if he's the head of AI, but he does work at Google.
He works at Google.
He was one of the people responsible for launching the autocomplete in the emails.
Oh, was he? Okay. Well, that thing helps me a lot, I'll be honest with you. And it gets it right scarily amount of the time. Like, it knows what it finishes that very, very well.
Yeah. So back to the original question that you had around, I guess, when I started talking about AGI. And whether I think there are concerns with this. So I think that if anyone was thinking about creating something that was so powerful that could potentially be sentient, have consciousness, then we really need to think about why we want to create this. And I think we need to start with that basis first, because if we're saying that or our company motto is to create AGI, but it'll be super safe, it'll always be under our control.
Yep.
But does that really even make sense? Because if we were going by, well, I always thought that AGI was like the point at which we reach the singularity, and it should have the same rights and freedoms as us humans do. So I don't think it just makes sense when we say it will be fully under our control, because that just doesn't seem like it's, one, possible, and secondly, ethical.
Yep.
So I think there are concerns with what's happening right now. And so what if we created productivity tools? If we just frame it that way, then I think it's a bit more palatable and even safer. But the way that we're going, it does seem like we are trying to create something which is as capable as humans. But what does that mean for us? Will it be the technology that frees us from things that we don't want to do or that we shouldn't be doing? Or will it, because because of the capitalist machine, everyone's just racing towards this because they think that this is the thing that will make them money and will keep their business model alive.
100%. Yeah, no, that's true. It's I think we're in a dangerous age from that perspective, where if you're and I mean, look, you said before that you guys are libertarian, and I'm a libertarian too. And when I was younger, I read books from Ayn Rand. I don't know if you've read Ayn Rand.
Yes.
Atlas Shrugged and The Fountainhead, and very much there's an idea of nobility in capitalism, of markets figuring themselves out, and if we all work together for our own self-interests, that we will create a world and a situation that is fundamentally better than if we sort of try to put tariffs and this and that. And that's true in large part, but things that have the capacity for atomic bombs, for instance, I think our mutual friend Joseph Beverly, who's working at Singularity Net, when we were talking about this was something that came up, where with AGI and the singularity, that I think I mentioned it to him. I said, this has a feeling of being like the Manhattan Project. It's like the atomic bomb. It was a race to get there, and then look at what was unleashed, and then suddenly we had to turn around and everybody had to, we spent 50 years as a collective, world trying to stop each other from using it against each other. Now we're sort of a bit more in control, but still, it's very much a Pandora's box, and can be. And that was with government sort of trying to do it. I can only imagine with capitalism and companies trying to one up each other. Is this a technology that should be used for the human good rather than capitalist pursuits, profits, like you said?
Well, as part of the transhuman movement, I don't think we should be stopping the development of this. So I think we should be pushing the capabilities of humanity, and we really do need intelligence to help us get there, artificial intelligence to get there, because there are still so many unsolved problems that we should be working on. I don't think anyone can say that things are as good as they can be. I mean, we live a pretty good life in Australia. We're one of the highest GDP per capita countries in the world, high standard of living.
I think the highest GDP
per
really? Capita. Yeah, I think so.
Oh, interesting. Okay. But even then, not everybody says, I'm the happiest, I'm at the maximum level of happiness that Certainly I not. Can ever be. And I don't think it's worthy of working on any other issues. I think we are living in very prosperous times throughout our modern history, I would say. Let's just say in the last 200 years, like there are wars happening, yes, but there's no major famines. Poverty has been reduced. We don't have these, So like we don't have the bubonic plague. So, I mean, yes, we had to deal with COVID and others, but overall, things are pretty peaceful and people are living a good standard of life all over the world. So, but even then, what if this is the point at which we thought, okay, it's too dangerous because like things are good. We should leave things as they are because they're kind of okay. But I think that's actually dangerous. There's a lot of things that could threaten our existence as humans. Number one, but two, isn't there innate want of humans to want to do better things? This is why there was a whole out of Africa movement, why we seeked better, better futures. We went, we took risks and, we went to far away lands.
Yep.
So I think I like to use that analogy in terms of how we should approach our thinking to technology and how much we invest in it. So, for example, I think I want to relate it back to transhumanism and the 3 pillars: longevity, well-being, and superintelligence. So I think that even though our standard of healthcare is really good and we're living, record long lifespans at the moment, we are not living healthy until the end. We've got these medicines which extend our life artificially, but we are not healthy. We're probably lying in bed or fairly immobile for the last, say, 5 years of our lives.
Yep.
So this is why it is important to to push the capabilities of humanity, to push what is really possible to give people better quality lifespans or health spans. And this is, I guess, why we should be working on artificial intelligence, which can help us with drug and therapy discovery and help us live longer and potentially forever if you choose. I mean, this is a little bit, sci-fi and a little bit far off. However, it's really about pushing our healthy lifespans, especially through even the use of, say, drugs that are already on the market. So, for example, rapamycin. It's a drug that's already on the market, which is for, I think it's either a diabetic drug or for I think for managing blood pressure. I forgot what it is, but there's 2 drugs that people are currently looking at for longevity, and actually just putting money towards doing human trials for that. So, but then there's also other things that are, I guess, a bit more cutting edge and more on the R&D side. So, for example, David Sinclair, he's one of the, he was at UNSW previously, and he still runs a research division here on longevity. He's now at Harvard. So one of his life missions is to find therapies which will help push, I guess, the healthy lifespans of humans, so we can live healthy until the end. So I think this is one of the most compelling arguments for why we should be pushing for progress in intelligence, how we need to throw more resources at it, and how we can optimize for a better and higher standard of living for everyone.
Yeah, absolutely. I 100% agree, and I hope you don't take it the wrong way. The question I asked before about about worries about things, because I'm super optimistic too about technology and about its use cases. I think the medical field is far and away, to me anyway, the most exciting and potentially advantageous use case for AGI. To think about the way that AI could potentially ingest raw data, like you said, with the brain mapping of electrical currents in the brain and showing dreams. I mean, similarly, you could have data from the movement of blood in a human's body, and you can only imagine the kinds of outcomes or the kinds of things that an AI could pick up on just from having a scan, having a whatever it is that human beings could never, because we haven't been taught or we haven't been whatever. But with AGI, the way that it can glean, information from patterns and everything is just, man, it's mind blowing. So I totally agree with you. I think, pushing into these things is wonderful. Why don't you just tell us a bit about some of the projects that Transhuman Coin has helped to along the way? Because one of the great things about Transhuman Coin is that you guys, and I think, I'm going to quote you here, and it may have been you or it may have been Peter, but you said that you're missionaries, not mercenaries. Was that your quote, or was that?
Yes.
Yeah, I thought that was great. And pushing for these amazing projects. So why don't you spotlight them for us a bit?
We firstly have worked with the University of Technology Sydney, and
you mentioned
worked with
yes.
them
Yep.
on our brain computer interfaces.
Yep.
So there was the dream machine, so translating dreams from your brain activity, and the other one is actually flying a drone with a EEG device. So,
wow.
Yeah, controlling a drone with your mind.
Wow,
and
that's incredible.
They recently had a competition at UTS not too long ago.
Really? And how many people were in the competition? Was it just one or two, or that was quite a lot?
I think there was at least 50 to 100.
Wow.
So yeah, that was around the time when I was in the States, unfortunately. So I didn't get to participate as part of it. Then the second project, we have supported so many, but I'm just trying to just pick like the highlights.
Yeah,
so
of course.
The second highlight would probably be supporting the Abby wheelchair by GoGo Tech. It is a autonomous electric wheelchair. So if you think of like a Tesla, it's pretty much, think of a Tesla in a wheelchair format. And so there is an app which you can control your wheelchair with. So that is, they went through Techstars, and yeah, we're really just happy to support all types of both hardware and software projects. Then the third project is we've actually supported a lot of peer-reviewed research that's been published in scientific journals.
Cool.
So this is like publicly available research. One was a piece on a rare genetic disease that was done by a researcher at Macquarie University, and the other was by Abyei State University overseas. And that's that piece of research is published in the scientific journal. So our philosophy really is to support projects which are at different ends of the spectrum, whether it's research all the way to commercialization as a startup. We kind of like to support the underdogs, especially the projects which normally wouldn't get as much funding or be looked at by traditional VCs. So for something like wheelchairs, it has a niche market, but there is a clear need for that. And it just won't meet, the investment criteria of many traditional investors. So our goal isn't to say, support these projects, take equity and hope to make a killing out of it. Yep. This is really from our community who were a big part of building up this, pool of funds so that we could support the projects that we care about. And who determines where these funds go to is the community. They get to vote on, which projects they want to support. So they can propose, we want you to support this project which does therapies, gene-based therapies. So then it can be put to a vote. And that's why we have this crypto model around this. So Transhuman Coin, it's not a real DAO, but we do have a lot of features which allow the community to have a real say in what the project does.
Great. So it's a governance token, and you get to vote on the projects that you guys support, which is wonderful. I mean, that's one of the pillars upon which crypto now exists is this, this idea that, anyone with a token can vote. I think it's really wonderful. Let me ask you, so you mentioned before that you weren't in Sydney for the trial of the drone flying. Now, was that when you went and were on the whale shark show? Is that what happened?
Yeah, that's right. So I was in LA to film for Killer Whales.
Killer whales,
So
sorry,
it's
whale shark. Why do we want to talk about killer whales? Exactly. God.
Shark Tank, right?
Shark Tank,
well,
exactly.
you were close. It's
was.
like a Shark Tank meets crypto type of show.
Oh my gosh, killer whales. Sorry about that.
So it's going to be on Amazon Prime or Apple TV at the end of the year. I think they're still in the process of editing it, and I'm just thinking, my God, 6 months. Like, will these projects survive?
Oh my God,
By the
seriously.
time it comes out.
Well, look, so you were there to spotlight, put a spotlight on the projects that you guys are funding. Is that what it was?
Yeah, I'll talk a little bit about the process. So we actually, so Hello Labs is the organization that produces Killer Whales, the TV show, and then so they had a leaderboard, and we got into the top 5 of the leaderboard through our community voting for us. And that gave us the opportunity to be on CoinMarketCap Live a few times, actually once. And so from there, they really liked my pitch, and we actually got invited to be part of the show already.
Cool.
If we had gotten into the top 3, then you're automatically invited to the show anyway. And it so happens by the end of the competition, we got into the top 3. We came 3rd.
There you go.
So that was a bonus. And really thankful that the community supported us through that too. So then we got to fly out to LA, and we got to be part of 1 out of 12 crypto Web3 startups or projects that got to pitch to a panel of judges.
Amazing.
And so when I got there, I didn't get to meet the judges beforehand. I couldn't meet any of the other contestants. They told me, treat this like it was a game show.
Okay.
And then they just got me in the tent, and I didn't really obey the rules. I was like going out, talking to people, taking selfies, trying to film everything. And then, so it's really weird. They say, it's a reality TV show, right?
Yep.
But it's far from reality, because weeks beforehand, they will have these calls with you to work on your pitch to the judges. So they're not telling you what to say, but they are kind of helping you craft a story and an angle. I guess they need a story arc to work with.
Yeah.
And so I kind of went with a little bit of a sob story. So everyone will have to watch the episode when it comes out at the end of the year to find out what I say and what I pitch.
Okay, I'm intrigued.
So then why I say that it's not really reality is that a lot of it is kind of, they make you do several takes. So when you are in front of the judges, I should say the whales, which is what they call them, like it's not like they're giving you a script to go by, but you kind of have this like pitch like in your head already. So that part is kind of the only part that's unscripted, but then everything else, when you're walking up to the judges, when they start filming the whole segment, they make you do several takes. So they're going to say to you, Alyse, we want you to walk up there, do it slowly. Okay, but you got to do it 5 times because we got to like have several takes to work with.
Oh my gosh.
So it's really awkward. You've got this like
sound awkward.
There's like 5 people sitting in front of you in a row, and you can't talk to them. You can't even say hello. And then I'm just like walking back and forth. And when you get up to the judges, you're meant to like scan them like this, while like they pan across your face with the camera. And so then after several of these takes, they're like, okay, now you can start pitching. So I get up there.
You're not exactly like, relaxed and any of that sort of stuff. You're just, oh my God.
Yeah, no, it's, and I know my leg was going numb as well because I was just standing up there for so long. So I get to do my pitch, and they ask several questions. Obviously, they don't really care about your answers. They're just trying to get some like juicy pieces that they can edit with for reality TV.
Yep.
And I don't really even get to answer the questions really well. And I think they do get a brief on who you are, what your project is, but I don't know, maybe they just already come up with questions. They're not really listening to your pitch. Maybe.
I get you.
I don't know. This part just, I don't know, baffles me. Reality TV. So anyway, I had fun. It was a good time. I wish so. If there was one criticism, I would say that they probably could have organized it better. So
Okay.
I mean, they fly in so many people from around the world that maybe they could have like had a little bit of get together at the end. Not sure. I mean, they invited a lot of these influencers and key opinion leaders around, and I don't know. It was just very. I guess TV production is chaotic, and what are you gonna do?
Well,
Really thankful for the experience anyway.
that's great. I mean, well, look, I'm taking notes. So when I run a MezFi, pitch fest or something, I'll make sure the notes are, make sure there's a party afterwards. Number one. Make sure that the pitch people who are pitching can talk to the whales and actually get to know them. And number three, let people mingle with each other and don't be too controlling. So that seems like a good takeaway from your experience there.
I like how you summarized it. I didn't want to just like go out and call out all that stuff. And I kind of wanted to tell them that in person, but it's just like, you know what? Like, I should just be grateful for this opportunity.
Nah, all right. Hello, Labs, if you're listening, get it together. No, I mean, look, it sounds like a fun experience anyway. Like you said, TV production. I mean, I've never been. Actually, the only time I've ever been anywhere close to TV is, and you're Australian, so actually, it's also an American show. Do you remember The Price is Right?
I do.
Yeah, so an old friend of mine was obsessed with The Price is Right. They'd been to the studio a number of times. You just apply for tickets, and they give them to you. They're free as part of the studio audience. And I went. It was myself, him, his sister, and another one of our friends. The four of us were there together at The Price is Right. They filmed 3 shows in one go, and my friend's sister actually got on the game show. She was called up. And so the whole thing was very exciting and whatever. But TV, it's definitely out there. It's very over the top. It's different, awkward for sure. But yeah, look, I'm really excited. I'm looking forward to seeing you on there. Was there any kind of, I mean, were you pitching for anything in particular, investment or for anything, or was it just to sort of see who thought what the ideas were good or bad? What was the outcome?
They would rate your project by giving you swims, or they'll sink. It's like sink or swim.
Okay.
Was their thing. So then if there's 5 whales, you get 5 swims, then you go on to win the prize. And I think it's unlimited. So if all 12 projects were really good, 5 swims for everyone, then I think it's unlikely, but they would get some prize, which is from CoinMarketCap hacking. But you've got to watch on to know how many swims I got.
We will not reveal how many swims you got. I'd give you 5 swims, Alyse. So that's
appreciate it.
Oh no, I mean, look, but it's such a great project that you guys have founded, obviously, and I always hear you speaking at conferences and and everything to do with blockchain, and you're present, and you're always involved in the community building of everything. So really positive and a really integrated member of the blockchain community. So for that, I guess on behalf of other people, I would say thank you for how committed you are, because it is great to be involved in a community where people such as yourself are always out there, always putting themselves out. It's wonderful.
Likewise, I'd say the same for you. And I really appreciate how you bring different people together for these great conversations as well.
Oh, thanks. Yeah. Well, I'm trying. Last week's chat, as I mentioned before, was with Amanda Wick from the Association for Women in Cryptocurrency. I mean, she's amazing. Transhuman Coin, you guys are doing great things. So, I think there's so many great people. And I always say this, blockchain is this ecosystem of really positive people, apart from the scammers, who really want to make the world a better place. And I think, Transhuman Coin, Transhumanism Australia really embodies that those values at its core, which is really wonderful. So, I think that's great. Like we said before, I think I wanted to talk a bit more about the potential for technology to be positive for humanity. And I think I've forgotten what term you were using when we were talking before the podcast, but there's a term that you used for technological optimism. Is that what it was? Yeah, if you can
Yes.
talk about that a bit, I think that would be really wonderful too.
I covered a lot of the points about techno optimism before and about the EAC movement, which is part of it, transhuman movement, also part of it. And I suppose if I just left people with this note about, so if we were to work backwards, so 2030 might be the singularity,
Yep.
then what do we need to do now to prepare for that? Because that's only 6 years away. And what does it mean when we have the singularity? Does it mean because we've got capability, which is as good as humans, which means labor's really cheap, possibly. I mean, we've got to solve for the physical part, which is we need robots. A lot of the physical world is not automated, not easily automated. And one reason is because we don't have the data sets for that. So that's actually another thing I'm working on at the moment, which I don't have too much to talk about right now. However, it is one of the biggest opportunities that is right in front of our faces. But I digress. What does this mean? 6 years away, the singularity. What do we do to prepare now? Well, if we think about what it means, it probably means, and we're kind of seeing this already, there is a kind of a shift in the workforce, and it could be driven by economic conditions as well. But I think part of it is possibly because organizations are shifting towards a more tech-centric organization, I could say. So whether they are truly tech-centric or not, I think there's a bit of a fear where they're like, oh, we got to capture what's happening because every other company is doing it.
Yep.
And one example is everyone's hiring for like AI talent. Like it could be like a project management for AI. It could be like really traditional roles, but it's centered around AI.
Yeah, totally.
But I think it's going to be a gradually then suddenly thing. So it's really difficult to extrapolate out beyond 12 months, I think. But the best way for people to prepare, I think, is to be really malleable. So with your mindset and with your skills.
Alyse, I really appreciate you coming on today. It's been an amazing conversation about Transhumanism Australia, Transhuman Coin, Techno Optimism, which, we're both so optimistic about technology in general. But, I guess the Transhuman Coin has really, you've leveraged the power of blockchain to make a difference in something that you really, believe in and that's close to your heart. So I wonder if you'd be able to give the listeners today 3 tips for using the power of blockchain to make a difference.
Firstly, like we have at Transhuman Coin, we've used it to raise capital so that we can support projects that the community cares about and always talks about. And secondly, it is really good for decentralizing power. So where we don't have to rely on a party, which normally you just put all your trust in. So, for example, SingularityNet. I actually was an early adopter of them. I still have their token. And so originally created because Ben didn't want to have the AI concentrated in the hands of the powerful few. So really good example, you could have a decentralized version of AWS or Azure through Singularity Net and similar types of projects. Thirdly, it would be, did I mention provenance? I think that my third one is provenance. This is actually an idea from the network state by biology, which is, so we, throughout history of civilization, we put our trust in different institutions or individuals. First, we kind of had a more religious type of outlook. We placed our trust in God, or I guess the church. These days, it's more about the government. So we put our faith in the fact that they will keep accurate records of our date of birth. And many important data that is it's integral to our lives. But what if, say, these type of institutions break down? It's not a certainty that governments are reliable throughout time. I think the third part, it's sort of provenance, but it's also about, I suppose, what is the institution that you'll put your trust in when you need a type of record keeping? And that could be blockchain. And I think that probably has the largest impact out of all of them.
Yeah, wow, that's amazing. Alyse, thank you so much. I really appreciate you coming on today, sharing your story, the story of Transhumanism Australia, Transhuman Coin. And, I'm really excited. I know you used to be the director of Metaverse at KPMG, as I mentioned at the beginning. Really excited to see what your next steps are going to be from here. And I will follow along keenly. And also, I am looking forward to watching the killer whales, not whale shark, killer whales episode when it comes out as well. So thank you so much again for being on the show today.
Pleasure. Thanks for having me, Jerome.
All right. Cheers. Have a great day. Thanks for watching. If you want to find out more about MezFi, go to www.mezfi.com. Follow us on X, YouTube, LinkedIn, Instagram, and Facebook. You can see our shorts there, and look forward to the next conversation, and see you then.